Hello, you are tuned in to Bridge Africa this week, the program that connects you to the top headline stories that are happening throughout the continent. All 56 passengers aboard the hijacked Egyptian plane were released, and the hijacker, Saif Eldin Mustafa, surrendered. The United States Agency for International Development pledged $200 million of humanitarian aid to the internally displaced persons living in the northeastern region of Nigeria whom were affected by Boko Haram. Ghana, Nigeria, and Cameroon grabbed Africa's 3 top spots for FIFA's Women's Under-17 World Cup competition, billed for Jordan. An Egyptian airliner carrying 56 passengers from Alexandria to Cairo was hijacked by an Egyptian, Saif Eldin Mustafa, and was forced to divert to Cyprus. All hostages on board were released, and the hijacker surrendered.
This is the plane that was bound for Cairo but ended up in Cyprus. Media report quotes Cypriot officials as saying an Egyptian man, Saif Eldin Mustafa, was responsible for the hijacked flight MS-181. The hijacker's motives remain unclear, but the Cypriot president, Nikos Anastasiad, said the incident was not terrorism-related. The hijacker's surrender came shortly after several people were seen fleeing the airport. The Cypriot government spokesman tweeted that no one was injured during the incident. A statement from Egypt's Civil Aviation Ministry said 26 foreign passengers were on board, including 8 Americans, 4 Britons, 4 Dutch citizens, 2 Belgians, 2 Greeks and a French national, an Italian and a Syrian.
The United States Agency for International Development set aside over $200 million for the provision of education, healthcare, water supplies, and sanitation to about 2.2 million internally displaced persons from the northeastern region of Nigeria. The region has suffered from several Boko Haram attacks since 2009.
This is the work of Boko Haram terrorism in Nigeria. This camp, located in the northeastern part of the country, hosts hundreds of thousands of internally displaced persons. The Nigerian government put the total number of internal displacement in the northeast at 2.2 million people. These numbers imply that water supply, healthcare, and education are crucial for the survival of these displaced. Both local and international assistance is required. The U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has set aside $20 million for basic needs of the displaced.
It's a big program, but as you see around you, the population in need is huge. So it remains a very challenging problem. Working with a whole host of international NGOs, the International Rescue Committee, Action Against Hunger, and several other groups who are working directly in the camps to support what SEMA and the NEMA are trying to do.
But as this assistance grows, so too is Boko Haram terror. The definitive refugee solution will therefore have to go beyond humanitarian aid to finding a lasting political solution to the Boko Haram crisis plaguing Nigeria since 2009.
Water is a natural resource necessary for business, human consumption, and health. In Zimbabwe, the water crisis has resurfaced, and its National Water Authority has warned of tragic consequences like typhoid and cholera, as seen in past years.
This is one among hundreds of taps expected to provide potable water for the Zimbabwean population. But this, unfortunately, is not the case, as households no longer have access to clean water. Factors such as rapid population growth and drought are the remote causes of the crisis. The Zimbabwe National Water Authority, ZINWA, says the country's 152 supply areas are depleting. The government and stakeholders have been called upon to take urgent action to avert the impending water crisis. The drought is having a negative impact on the water supplies, forcing households to rely on unprotected water sources. Water crisis is not new in Zimbabwe, thus increasing the risks for waterborne diseases like typhoid and cholera.
A new UK law, which goes into effect on April 6, 2016, will open the door for deportation of non-European Union skilled workers from Britain who earn less than €35,000 per year. Africa is one of the continents which will be adversely affected by the new law.
At least 40,000 migrants, amongst them Africans, will be affected by the new law. The exact official number of Africans in the UK in 2016 is not clear. It is, however, estimated that hundreds of thousands of Africans are immigrants in the United Kingdom. Most of these immigrants are from Southern Africa. According to the UK Office of National Statistics, the number of Zimbabweans increased from about 47,000 in 2001 to an estimated 200,000 in 2010. The new UK immigration policy means that non-EU workers who've lived in Britain for 5 years will be required to prove they earn at least €35,000 to avoid deportation. Thousands of African teachers, students, charity workers, and those employed in the UK National Health Service face deportation from the UK if they fail to meet this criteria. Africans who work in the nursing, science, and research fields will be exempted from deportation irrespective of their earnings. The UK government has not stated any official reason for the law. However, the UK is one of many Western countries under constant threat of terrorism. It is unclear whether the new law is terrorism related.
Jamal Al-Deed Kwali, an Algerian, is said to be in connection with the recent terrorist attacks in Brussels and Paris. He was apprehended in Italy after Belgium authorities issued an international arrest warrant against him.
Paris and Brussels under terrorism in 2016. This was Paris in February, then Brussels this March. Both attacks were claimed by the so-called Islamic State. Now, individual responsibilities for these attacks have surfaced. The 40-year-old Algerian, Edin Kwali, is the latest suspect for both attacks. He is accused by Belgium of providing fake documents to be used in illegal immigration. He is also suspected of providing a forged document that was used by one of the suicide bombers in Tuesday's attacks in Brussels that left at least 31 people dead. According to a statement from the Italian police, Kwali might be extradited to Belgium in the coming days.
One of the suicide bombers arrested by the Cameroon military in the far north of the country claimed to be one of the 270 schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram in the northeastern region of Nigeria in April of 2014. The Nigerian government is due to send some members of the Chibok community to Cameroon to investigate the identity of the girl.
Reuters news agency reports indicate that the army in the region arrested 2 girls carrying explosives in the village of Lamani, north of Cameroon. The area has been the target of frequent suicide bombings in recent months. The girls have been handed over to Cameroonian soldiers belonging to a multinational force set up to combat Boko Haram. Boko Haram had raided a school in Chibok in April 2014 while the girls were taking exams. The terrorist group loaded 276 of the girls onto trucks. 57 of them had escaped shortly afterwards. If the suicide bomber is confirmed to be one of the Chibok girls, then it shows the extent to which the girls have been radicalized by the terrorist group Boko Haram.
Despite the recent terrorist attacks in Ivory Coast, the country has continued to witness steady economic growth, which is largely attributed to their cocoa sector. In effect, the Ivory Coast is the world's biggest cocoa producers, and most of its nationals embrace cocoa as a part of their daily diets.
According to the World Bank, cocoa is Ivory Coast's biggest cash crop, accounting for 22% of gross domestic product, more than half of its exports, and 2/3 of people's jobs and incomes. The Ivorian president, Alassane Ouattara, commissioned the country's first major chocolate factory and companies like House of Chocolate to improve the quality of their products in order to make enormous gains from it. The main objective of the factory is to achieve quality production and profit from Ivory Coast natural resources to boost employment and satisfy Ivorians at large.
Cameroon has set 2035 as the deadline for its economic emergence. One of the key sectors the country is counting on for its emergence is the enterprise sector. The country has set aside a ministry in charge of the sector, known as the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, Social Economy, and Handicraft. I sat down with the minister in charge of the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, Laurent Serge Etoundi, to discuss what the ministry is doing to promote the growth of enterprises in Cameroon. We're so happy to have you here on our show today.
So am I. We come for this event. It's an event where we make a point of all the policies we have been carrying out all years long. It's the first edition of 2016, so we are very glad to be in Douala. The balance sheet shows that things are moving. We want them to move very fast, but the tally is not too bad. We are going on further, and we think that in the coming months things will come to what we need them to be.
Absolutely. And I understand today at the Cameroon Business Forum there were many esteemed guests such as yourself, the Prime Minister Philemon Yang, the Minister of Communications, the Minister of Finance, and Minister of Justice, Minister of Posts and Telecommunications. So it seemed as if many actors, important actors from the government, were coming together to make a strong point to say that business is important in Cameroon on the small and large scale. So that was very interesting. How many years has this event of the Cameroon Business Forum been occurring?
This is let's say the 5th edition, when we know that there is 2 editions per year.
Okay.
You can say that from the earlier form, because when at the beginning it was not Cameroon Business Forum, it was what we call a platform, and the platform functionally moved to a forum, a business forum between the private sector and the public sector, and now we can say that is the 3rd year in the form of CBF that we are holding today.
Right, where all actors can come, and I know many small businesses were able to have a floor to even address yourself and the Prime Minister to ask pertinent questions about business. And I also understand that the World Bank, the IMF, are a part of this program of helping business, and there's something that they're called the Doing Good Business, that is a report that is disseminated every year from the World Bank. And I see that this year Cameroon has been able to jump 13 steps from where it was previously on the Doing Good Business report. So what do you think were the factors that were able to help Cameroon to be able to improve by 13 points thus far on the Doing Good Business report?
Okay, I would like to say that in 2014 we make a few progress, and in 2015 we were surprised to see the classification place in where we were lodged, and we will say that we have a problem. We know that things are not working so fast, but the method of evaluation is not very common. This is the reason why we came out with questioning, and the Doing Business Committee sent a delegation to come and talk to us. At the process of creation of enterprise, I highlighted in my paper, I said that the formal report of the World Bank and some other organizations showed that Cameroon is #1 in the term of creation enterprise in the world now.
72 hours.
Yeah, in term of number of enterprise created too. How can we have 3 points minus when we are first? It is, we cannot understand it. But the key point is that the person being questioned when the Doing Business team come to Cameroon is not an appropriate sample to give.
Who is questioned?
Oh, they have correspondence here. Wow. We went through investigation, and we even found that some of them are not businessmen. They know nothing about business. It means that they don't have the right information quite some time at the right place. Nevertheless, we cannot say that everything is good. But we need person who come to question, being those who knows exactly what's going on in the business environment. This is the first thing. The second thing is that we have some reforms in domains which are very complicated. Let's speak about the domain of landscape.
Yes.
It is a very complicated domain. If we want to install industries, we must have the land.
Yes.
The land property is very complicated in Cameroon. It's at 3 levels. Families and communities need land. Maybe they say we are the native here, and the law regulation says that land is something belonging exclusively to the state, and the state must give you a proprietary certificate for you to be a landowner. So based on that, when we are coming out with a legislation of regulations, we must take to account every specificities concerning the land question.
Right.
And in a domain like this one, the doing business process is facing a lot of problems. We know that. And now we got the order from the president and from the prime minister to initiate a kind of process so that this aspect of land being improved and allow businessmen, industries to get spaces where they can come out with the activities in a fluid manner.
Okay, so the ministry and the government is working together to make the process of owning land more facilitated. What is the exact ranking of Cameroon for the doing good business?
168. We were 164 earlier, but now we dropped.
Okay.
Yeah, and we dropped for 4 places.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the reason why we are questioning ourselves. They said that in the creation of enterprise we drove off 3 points.
Yes.
And we want to know where.
Yes, I understand that, because I know that the Doing Good Business report is based on things like access to electricity, facilitation of being able to start a business, access to information technology, infrastructure like the internet, and also cross-border exchange. But I know that in some areas, such as creating business, things have been facilitated, because I know that the ministry has a one-stop shop, correct? Where you can actually create it's a 10-stop shop for creating a business, and I know that's one of the key things that you've been able to do as a ministry. Can you tell us more about how that center works for registering of a business in Cameroon?
Yeah, I would like to say something about the previous situation. In the previous situation, we have to get in possession of many papers. You have to go to justice, you have to go to finance, you have to go to the national fund. And I think that was difficult because we were not sure you will find the guy in charge in place. You have a few distance to cover. You have some allowances of money who were very high, and after all the process, who take at least 2 months or 3, you have to go to see the very, very independent officer of that. We call it the notaire. You go there and meet the notaire, and you have to pay some allowance who was very, very expensive for somebody who is resuming his business. So what the government did is to bring to a common place all these services and try to lower in maximum all the cost of operation, so that we went to the lower cost of creating what you call an establishment, where 250,000.
Okay.
We bring it to 44,000 CFA francs.
Oh, wow.
Or 50,000 CFA francs.
So from 250,000 to 50,000 to 45,000.
Yeah, we reduce it by, let's say, 3/4. So now we shorten also the delay of creation and enterprise. Now when everybody is in place and when everybody play his key role, we have to create in 72 hours. Quite sometimes in Yaoundé or Douala, when it is enterprise coming from abroad, the process is accelerated. They do it in 48 hours. So it means that if we put our main conscious, if we decide to do something better, we can create an enterprise in Cameroon in 48 hours. This is the main objective we are trying to reach in the next year evaluation.
And I know that your ministry is going to be critical for that, with being able to employ youth, being able to really spark the entrepreneurship spirit, which is critical for the country and its growth. And I'm so happy that you came to speak with us today and to tell us about the great things that the ministry is doing. Ghana, Nigeria, and Cameroon safeguarded Africa's 3 spots for FIFA's Under-17 Women's World Cup competition to be held in Jordan this year. The 3 teams occupied the 3 positions at the CAF Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifying tournament.
Ghana remains the only African country to have reached the semi-finals of the Under-17 women's competition after finishing 3rd in the 2012 World Cup. Nigeria's Under-17 women's team beat South Africa 1-0 in the second leg of their qualifying fixture in Timbiza, with Rasheedat Ajibade striking at the 28th minute. The Nigerians qualified with 7-0 on total after winning the first leg 6-0 a fortnight ago in Abuja. This will be their 6th appearance at the Under-17 Women's World Cup since they first qualified for the men's edition in 2008. At the 2014 Under-17 World Cup in Costa Rica, the Flamingos got to the quarterfinals but lost 3-0 to Spain. Cameroon and Egypt play out a tightly contested encounter in their first leg meeting as host Cameroon urged their North African opponents 2-1 at the Amadou Ahidjo Stadium, Yaoundé. The second leg was more one-sided as a 4-0 win in Cairo saw Cameroon progress to the tournament for the first time.
The national football team of Cameroon, the Indomitable Lions, maintained their lead in Group M with 7 points, despite their 2-2 draw with South Africa. The match played on Saturday, March 27th in Limbe was an away late qualifier for the 2017 African Nations Cup tournament to be held in Gabon.
When Cameroon's Indomitable Lions descended on the Limbe Opni Sports Stadium to take on South Africa, public expectations were rife. Hugo Broos, the new Lions coach, was seeking to restore his coaching ability after controversy erupted over his competence. The players too were also seeking a victory to move closer to the doorsteps of Gabon 2017. But minutes into the match, this goal from South Africa put to question Cameroon's dual objectives. Hopes of victory were revived when the Lions fired back an equalizer before halftime. The two teams separated on a 1-1 tie at halftime. The resumption of the second half further heightened hopes of victory on both sides. The second half, however, was a remake of the first, with South Africa taking the lead with this goal. Cameroon then equalized to put the scores at 2-2. Despite this draw game, Cameroon maintained the lead in Group M with 7 points. The return leg match between both teams takes place this Tuesday in Durban, South Africa.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Bridge Africa this week. And be sure to check out our website, bridgeafrica24.com, that gives you Africa's top headlines every single day. Peace and blessings.